Horace Cooper is not the Labor Secretary, wish he was. He's a senior fellow with the National Center for Public Policy Research. He's the co-chairman of Project 21 National Advisory Board. He joins us tonight. Horace, great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Patrick Gaspard, what do you make of him? He could soon be a cabinet secretary. How should we feel about that?
This is the triumph of this idea that who we look like is far more important than who we actually are. You know, Vice President Biden probably needs to issue an apology to former Reagan Interior Secretary Jim Watt, who was lambasted for talking about an advisory committee constituting having a black, a Jew, and, quote, a cripple on it. This mindset that led to that lambasting is exactly what we are seeing today, which is it's a reversal. We now are exalting this behavior. The very idea that my grandparents joined together, whites and blacks, their generation, to change America so that we are not looked at by the color of our skin or some DNA type, but are instead supposed to be judged, as Martin Luther King said, by the content of our character. This new potential labor secretary, this idea being presented by the vice president is a shameful reminder that what Democrats did throughout the beginning of the 20th century, apparently we're about to see it again in the advent of the 21st century.
It's also bewildering, I'm 51, to people who are my age and grew up in a country where it was really beaten into your head that you were, and everyone fell short of this because people are people, but you were required to try to assess people
Absolutely.
on the basis of the way they behaved, of the choices that they made. And now we're demanding exactly the opposite. When was the turning point here? I mean, maybe historians will have to figure this out, but do you remember the moment when the consensus changed to be the opposite of what it was?
So there was a minority voice, the lesser numbers of America, but they were largely on social media. They occupy many prominent voices in the mainstream media that tried to present these ideas, and they were often pushed back against. The Chief Justice of the United States famously said, in an opinion, that we don't fix the problem of discrimination on the basis of race by discriminating on the basis of race. I now wonder if he would be comfortable making that statement today, because those that were minority voices challenging this consensus now seem to have triumphed. And we're back at a point where it's you can't drink out of this water fountain, you can't attend this school. You may recall there were Democrats who said it was good for blacks to be separated. When the vice president announces with big fanfare, this position is going to be held by this black, and this position is going to be held by this person, it's quite reminiscent of this. It is truly tragic that so many people sacrificed. They did so much. And as you said, we grew up accepting this premise. And now to have it just cast away as if it just was an irrelevancy, that's a real shame about this change.
And it doesn't go anywhere good. I mean, if you have a country
Absolutely
that's essentially just a constellation of warring tribes, each trying to get all they can, like, what's the end game? Like, what does that look like in 20 years?
We learned when you and I were kids, we learned that we're missing out on the great achievements, the great artists, the great mysteries being solved in science and disease, because we're limiting who can participate based on some physical attribute that tells us nothing about these individuals. Now, of course, we're going to come back to that phase where those are going to be the sole attributes. Good luck with solving so many of the challenges that we will face in the future if this is the mindset that we maintain.
It is Back to the Future. I agree with that. Horace Cooper, thanks so much for your clarity on that. Appreciate it.